Does anybody want automatic promotion? Does anybody want the playoffs? At this point, I don't think anybody does. What is up, guys? Welcome to my roundup of round 29 of the Championship. Sorry it's a bit late, but this is the annoying thing about Monday night fixtures and me being a bit of a completist. I like to get all the fixtures in one video, and unfortunately it means we got to wait until Tuesday. But next week, because I obviously do Boro review specifically, we'll leave the Boro-Sunderland game separately, and I will do my roundup earlier after the Saturday and Sunday games next weekend. But let's get through them all then quickly, because Sheffield United lost at home to Hull by 3-0 on Friday night in what was a very, very big shock. Hull have improved under Ruben Selles. I've said since he come in, I've got no worries about Hull, but to see them go to Sheffield United and win 3-0 was something else. Now, it wasn't a dominant performance, but they took their chances when they came. Good old Matt Crooks with a beautiful finish. It was just a clinical away performance by Hull, and Sheffield United just were not at it at all, really, in the attacking third. 17 shots they had, but no big chances created, and they've won only one of their last 4 home games at the current form. So it's a bit of a surprise to see Sheffield United's form drop. Every team has a dip, but they used to be so strong at home, and they have been throughout the majority of this season. But this is a bit of home form they'll want to get out of quickly and get back to winning ways, because a 3-0 defeat at home, it's not very automatic promotion form. Luton 0, Millwall 1. Luton's terrible run continues. They've now lost 6 from 7 in the Championship. They've changed manager. The results haven't changed yet. I'm not going to judge Matt Bloomfield yet, but at this moment in time, Luton need to get the ship turned round quickly, and sooner rather than later, because as it stands currently, they are not only inside the bottom 3, but they're starting to be cut adrift slightly. I still remain absolutely baffled by Luton's form this season and how badly things have turned. I don't think anybody would have predicted things have gone this wrong for Luton, but it's another defeat. 1 at home, that never helps. Millwall took their chances here. It looks like a fairly even game on paper that Luton have just lost out of again. So it's a great win for Millwall, who are still a little bit up, a little bit down. Just want to keep themselves away from any danger at this point, and this win will go a long way of doing that. But for Luton, I really hope for them Matt Bloomfield can get himself going pretty quickly, because as it stands, Luton Town could be heading into the crunch time of the season in the biggest relegation scrap, facing back-to-back relegations. Norwich 5, Swansea 1. It's one of them games at Carrow Road where Norwich are just on it. And I guess that's the frustrating thing about Norwich. They have these performances in them. They just don't really do them enough, especially on the road. Their away form continues to be below par, but they're unbeaten at home in their last 4. Scoring 5 is always good for the confidence, and it just keeps them in that little bit of limbo of can they not, will they, won't they get back into the playoff mix. But in general, in all honesty and in fairness, their last couple of away games have been Sunderland, Sheffield United and Leeds, so it has been a relatively tough period for Norwich. So if they can use this as a platform to kick on from, then I think they could definitely get themselves back in there, just down to the inconsistency of the teams in the playoffs, which I will get onto a little bit later. But pressure might be starting to fall on Swansea's manager, Luke Williams, after looking like he'd made slight progress earlier in the season. Things have now gone a little bit awry. They've lost 4 of the last 5, but I think even worse is they've conceded 15 goals. I don't know what's going on with Swansea's defence and their goalkeeper at this moment in time, but if they keep shipping goals like they are, they're not going to get many results whatsoever. And what looked like an outside chance of potentially getting into the playoff mix is looking more and more unlikely as the weeks go by, and maybe the pressure is going to start ramping up if these results continue. Stoke 0, Oxford 0. Definitely a better point for Oxford, and looking at the data and the chances and the XG, a game they probably could have and should have won, to be honest with you. I think Stoke, even though they're not losing many, only 1 defeat in 6, they're not winning many games either. They're going through a little bit of limbo themselves, still not quite gotten going under Mark Robbins, and they will look at this as a game they should have won, and here's hoping for them they don't look back at this game at the end of the season as one they maybe should have won at home to an Oxford team who notably have been poor all season away from home until Gary Rowett come in, because he's now won 5 from his first 8, drawing 3. They're undefeated under him. I have got to hold my hands up like a lot of people. I thought the sacking of Des Buckingham was harsh, and I think in isolation it still is. But to get Gary Rowett in and get this sort of an impact is incredible. And it might not last, things might still go south. They still might have a tough spell at some point, but the points they're bagging now might just give them enough of a buffer. So at the end of the season, they might not be getting dragged into anything all that dramatic, and they can relax maybe a little bit more than they looked like they were going to. So his form under Rout so far has been outstanding, and the job he's doing there, it's absolutely spectacular, and fair play to them. Bristol City 2, Blackburn 1. A huge result for Bristol City in terms of the playoffs, because Blackburn are a side who at one stage, well, people were talking top 2. I was never quite convinced of that, but they looked like they were the side to solidify a place in the top 6. But recently, it's gone off the boil, and this is what teams around the playoffs have been doing all season. I support one of them. It's crazy. From 5th downwards, it is an absolute scrap, full of teams who are just incredibly inconsistent and just can't string a run of results together that are positive. Negative-wise, well, yeah, they're stringing a few of them together. I mean, Blackburn have lost 3 on the bounce, 6 from the last 9. It is a long way away from the team that won 5 on the bounce and got, how many clean sheets was it? 5 clean sheets in 6 or something. All that, it doesn't feel like that long ago at this point, but what this result has done is it has basically closed the gap massively between Bristol City and one of the playoff sides, and it just brings another team into that scrap, that pack of chasing teams to put pressure on the likes of Watford, Blackburn, Boro, West Brom, and make us nervous. I'm feeling it as a Boro fan. I'm feeling it right now. It's, the inconsistency, the poor results that we've had, Blackburn have had, Watford have had. We've got away with them for relatively long enough because there's been no one on our shoulders to take advantage. We've just been battling it out. It's like being the battle of the ship between the 3 of us, to be quite honest with you. But now teams are starting to put pressure on, and it might force us to get in gear. And Blackburn are definitely one of them teams. But it's a big win for Bristol City. Their home form continues to be really, really good. I think it's 4 home wins in a row for them. And they've got to be a team you've got to watch out for as someone who might sneak into the playoff place and cement themselves in that fight. Cardiff 2, Derby 1. Big win for Cardiff, and fair play to Omar Rizza. After a wobbly start when he first took over as permanent manager, there was a few question marks. He's done really well. He's done really, really well since then, and I think they're unbeaten in 7 at this point now, and he's starting to steer them away, picking up points consistently. Very, very good for him, showing the promise that he did in his interim spell in charge, so fair play. But Derby are in free fall all of a sudden. It's been a while since I've done a Roundup video here on the channel, and last time you felt worried that they might slip into a bit of trouble, but with the results they've gone the other way for teams around them and the form Derby are in, they are in free fall right now, and Paul Warne might start getting a few nerves, you could say, with Derby now in the bottom 3, and it's come from nowhere. They looked fine, a little bit like Oxford, they'll be in it, they'll be there, they might flirt with relegation, but they'll be alright. But now they're getting embroiled in it massively, and it's that time of the season where, is it too late to make a change? Will they panic? Will they stick? It's going to be a really interesting few weeks for Derby. They've got to turn this form around, because other than, well, like Luton, they might end up finding themselves sucked into a relegation battle that not too long ago seemed possible. Coventry 2, Watford 1, another side who've lost, who are being right there within the playoffs, beaten by a team who are closing in. Very much like the Bristol City Blackburn result, this is a big one. It narrows the gap between the chasing pack and the teams who've been in and around the playoffs for a while now. Watford's form, like Blackburn's, has fallen off a cliff. 5 defeats in 7 now. I know there's pressure on Tom Cleverley. I still don't think sacking him's the right thing to do. I think long term he's given Watford an identity, and he's done brilliantly for them, and it would be a mistake to go back to square one at this stage with them. But their form has certainly dropped off massively, and Coventry's form under Lampard has picked up, but they're starting to come good. And am I surprised? Not really. Coventry are a side who always have a late run towards the playoffs and fell short last year. It wouldn't surprise me if they got in there this year. They're certainly a side who are making me, as a Boro fan, feel a little bit uneasy right now. So another result that swung massively within the playoff chasers, just to make that pack even more interesting. Preston 2, Boro 1. I've reviewed this on my channel. I'm over it, to be honest with you, so I'm not going to talk too much about this one. I talked about it on Saturday night. Feels like a long time ago, and it's not something I want to particularly revisit, but it was another case of Boro inconsistently throwing points away once again with a, well, a defensive error that quite honestly has gone viral, to be honest with you, with how utterly embarrassing it was. So check that one out if you want to laugh. Yeah, Preston do what they do against Boro. They win 2-1. They win at home. They beat Boro. They're very good at home. 8 wins, or 8 unbeaten at home. Should I say only 1 loss in 7 for them at Deepdale. So it was always going to be a tough test for Boro, but in a game where you still take a point, the manner in which we chose to throw it away was absolutely shambolic, and it just sums up our season. It's incredibly frustrating. Only 3 wins in 9 for us right now, and as I've mentioned with Blackburn and Watford, it's frustrating that the teams around us that we're competing with have been in such bad form, and yet we've not capitalised, and we're still right there in amongst it when we should be clear with the points we continue to throw away. And as I've mentioned, with the pack closing in behind us, we might be about to sleepwalk into a battle that we should never have been in the first place, and it's all our own doing. It's really, really frustrating, and Boro need to sort themselves up and wake up really quickly. QPR 0, Sheffield Wednesday 2. QPR's brilliant run of results ends. It's quite a surprise, this one. QPR have been on such a roll of late. It looked like playoffs could even be a realistic thing for them, which I could not believe, but it's just the way the stars have aligned for them over the last few weeks. But they've been stopped right in their tracks following a very good second half display by Sheffield Wednesday, who were clinical with the chances they took in the second half. And as I said, they're a part of that chasing pack who needed a victory here, and it's a big win over another playoff chaser. The number of teams who are competing for playoffs at the moment is absolutely crazy, and some of these results could prove to be huge this weekend. But I think for QPR, they should just not get too hung up on this defeat. They need to get back on the horse and try and find the form again that was getting them really, really close to the playoff picture, and ensure they don't fall away again. Sheffield Wednesday, they're up, they're down. I'm still not convinced they'll have consistency to stay in the fight as much, but this is a big away result for them and one they'll look to build on. Sunderland 2, Plymouth 2. A giant chance goes begging for Sunderland. I think they were one of the teams licking their lips after the Sheffield United defeat, with Leeds and Burnley facing each other. An open door, really, to jump right on the back of top 2 and gain some vital ground. And you're playing a side at home who are notoriously the worst in the league away from home. They'd just been battered 5-0 by Burnley the week before. So you think it's an easy win. You think it's an absolute easy win, easy victory, walk in the park, 3 points for Sunderland, who are imperious at home. But no, a 90th minute equaliser for Plymouth got them probably their best point of the season on the road, and it's just one of them missed opportunities that you wonder at the end of the season, if Sunderland falls slightly short, this is that game they'll look back on and think, so close to 3 points, will that make a difference? I don't know. They'll still be fine. They've continued to be solid and consistent, and they've responded to setbacks really well this season so far, so I'm not all that worried about where they are right now, but this certainly could be a result they'll look back on. It's certainly a giant opportunity missed. As for Plymouth, well, maybe under this new manager there is hope. Maybe this is a result they can build on, and why not? They've gone all the way to Sunderland, they've gotten a point. It should give them a lot of confidence. I still think it's a long shot for Plymouth to get themselves out of the trouble they're in, but if they can't capitalise on this result, then when will they? West Brom 5, Portsmouth 1. A brilliant win for Tony Mowbray. Absolutely delighted for the Boro legend that this is the first result he got. What a brilliant win. 5-1 at home. Goals galore for West Brom. And it could be the sort of performance that helps them kick on and consolidate a playoff place. Can they be the team out of this pack who can finally just kick on and nail a position and make it their own? I don't see why not after this. And as a Boro fan, I'm looking at this as a disappointment and thinking the rest of us could be in trouble here. West Brom might have set themselves up and made a change that will ensure they're going to be in there, and they will be the side to finally take hold of that playoff place and solidify it in their grasp. So I'm a bit worried about this from a Boro point of view, that West Brom have had such a great first win under Tony Mowbray, but I'm delighted for him as well after all he's been through. It was a brilliant, brilliant win, and I'm so happy for him. And Pompey are a team I just can't work out. I'll be absolutely honest. They are the ultimate Jekyll and Hyde side. Won 6 of 7 at home, but lost 6 away on the bounce, and they've conceded 18 goals in them games. I still don't know which way it's going to spin for Pompey. Will their home form drop off and they fall back into trouble? Or will their home form continue and their away form start to level out and they'll be absolutely perfectly safe? It's still on a knife edge for me unless they sort out their away form, because it is still really, 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 really poor, and they're relying on their form at Fratton Park massively to keep them out of trouble. And finally, Burnley 0, Leeds 0. Part of me wishes I'd not hung on and waited for this result until I made this video, because this was a game that happened. One of the most boring, uneventful games of football you'll ever see. You expect it from Burnley, in all honesty, but from Leeds, disappointing. I mean, it's a good point, I guess, but it doesn't really do much for either side. I guess neither have lost to a rival, but yeah, it was an open opportunity for one of them to take advantage of Sunderland's draw and Sheffield United's defeat, and they haven't. So the top two sort of stays as is, kinda. This is a game that happened. Got nothing more to say. So finishing off with the Championship League table then, and as I say, big opportunities missed across the board, really. Leeds could have really cemented a place at the top with a victory on Monday night that they've missed. Three draws in 5 for them now. Same with Sheffield United, a big defeat for them, which they could have capitalised on. Burnley as well, I guess, have maybe come out the better of it. You know, they've closed a point in on Sheffield United, and Sunderland are no closer to them. But yeah, it's a big opportunity missed from Sunderland. Still only 3 points off, of course, but they could have been right there in third had they gotten a result. And then the playoff scrap is crazy. As I say, I still believe West Brom could be the side to kick on and make that position their own, because there's no sides below them that look anywhere near all that convincing. Boro, Blackburn and Watford are now looking right over their shoulders at Bristol City, Sheffield Wednesday, Norwich and even Coventry, who could come at them quickly. So yeah, it's a really uneasy time for me as a Boro fan and a lot of the teams around us. The playoff picture could swing massively over the next few weeks if things don't continue, or things continue in the manner they are with some of the teams in there. And then at the bottom, well, it's not pretty reading for a few teams who I didn't think I'd ever see down there, to be honest. Plymouth, yeah, they're still massively adrift, and the game in hand Pompey have against Millwall at home could be huge in the context of the 3 teams at the bottom, because it could cut them massively adrift as it stands. But Derby have slipped in there. Luton are now 3 points from safety, and it could increase with Portsmouth's win. In fact, Stoke will probably drop down in that position, so maybe it won't actually, in all matter of fact. But still, to be 3 points inside the drop is terrible for Luton Town, and Derby are now in there as well. Suddenly you're looking at Cardiff, you're looking at Oxford and QPR, who are now out of sight. It's quite crazy how things have changed over the last few weeks, and I fear that sort of change might happen in the playoffs as well if we aren't careful, along with some of the teams around us. But let me know your thoughts on your team in the comment section below. As I say, I won't be leaving the roundup until Tuesday next week, because I'll review the Boro and Sunderland games separately. So we'll be back to round up next weekend's games on Sunday instead. But until then, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe for more, and I'll see you all in the next one.